All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast, real estate tip. And today I'm here to talk to you about if the DOJ gets their way. They do not like this NAR lawsuit settlement that I know we got preliminary approval on through the court system. But if the DOJ cracks down and gets their way, what is going to happen to the real estate industry? And more importantly, how to prepare and best position ourselves as real estate professionals, as realtors, as team leaders, as brokerage owners to not just survive, but to thrive during these changes that we're going to see. History favors those that are most prepared. We cannot bury our head in the sand. We've got to look at the different realities, different scenarios of how this can play out. And as of right now, best case scenario is the NAR settlement proposal that now we have preliminary approval on. They're not expecting final approval, the judge to finally, to sign off and finalize this until November of 2024. But let's just say, okay, if that gets pushed through and everything goes the way that the NAR settlement proposal, which I'm sure all of you by this time have full awareness of what that is, that goes through, that's best case scenario of what we have on the table right now. Okay, but then as you probably are aware, but just in case you're not, 3 weeks after NAR comes out with their proposed settlement, you got the DOJ dropping the hammer on this, opening up their own investigation. And why are they doing this? The DOJ does not like, at least what they're saying is they do not like this NAR settlement proposal because it's not true commission decoupling. There's some gray area. There's some workarounds on this. How the DOJ wants this is, okay, well, let's first break down what the NAR, how the NAR proposal is right now and why I'm saying it's not true commission decoupling. Because yes, how commissions are going to be dispersed is changed. But the seller still in a way can compensate buyer's agent representation, right? And the DOJ does not like this. So, how it's historically been through all of our careers, at least for most of you, you've been doing this, pre-mid 1990s, that since pre-mid 1990s is, okay, I go and I take a listing. I charge the seller X percent to go out there, market their property, sell their property. For my services, it's X percent. Now, if I bring a buyer, okay, my fee is X percent. Now, in the event a buyer's agent brings a buyer, I'm willing to split X percent or, whatever the percentage is of X percent with that buyer's agent for bringing the buyer and doing 50% of the work. I'm going to split whatever that split is. That's disclosed. Sellers all in awareness. We're all on the same page with that. It's all part of the listing agreement, right? So seller paying listing agent then choosing, if you choose to, split a portion of your percent that you're charging of your fee to that buyer's agent. Well, now, okay, in the NAR settlement, that goes away, right? So now it's okay, you got seller paying listing agent. But then from there, seller can offer buyer concessions. And then through those buyer concessions, part of those concessions can be then applied to buyer agent representation a fee, right? So then it's still not full commission decoupling. How the DOJ wants this is you got seller paying listing agent, buyer paying buyer's agent. No way, shape, form, or fashion can each other compensate the other. So you wouldn't be able to, through buyer concessions, get paid as a buyer agent, as their representative on the buyer agent side, right? So if the DOJ gets what they want, yeah, there's going to be massive disruption. Now let's first look at the power that the DOJ has, right? So if you were paying attention to what just took place with FISA. So now FISA, and with what just took place in FISA, this was a split decision where it came down to the Speaker of the House. Now, the Speaker of the House was like, hey, and it, just so you guys know what this whole thing about FISA was, okay, the government, government agencies, this stems back to the Patriot Act. I'm not going to go too deep into this because this is kind of off point, but I just want to make sure that you understand the power that the DOJ has, because the probability of them cracking down on this and far many more changes and the DOJ getting their way, I believe is very high. Right. So, okay, with FISA, this stems back to the Patriot Act, where, through the Patriot Act, it gives the governmental agencies the power to go out there and spy on quote unquote terrorists abroad as well as domestically. But up until this new vote that was just passed, there had to be probable cause and a warrant had to be, in place. So then the government agencies, the powers that be, could go out there and collect any data, like your cell phone data, your cell phone records, or, because you got to think of, okay, anything that we do online, every conversation, everything's recorded, every keystroke is recorded. So they have insane amounts of data on everything that we do in our life, right? Well, where this vote came down to is, okay, They're gathering all this data, but do the government agencies, the powers that be, do they need a warrant to be able to access that data on American citizens? So they have to have probable cause where then the judge issues a warrant to go out there and do this search. Or can they just pull this data anytime and look into your life at any time? Well, this came down to the Speaker of the House. Now, first, the Speaker of the House is, vote is saying, okay, hey, no, you have to have a warrant. That's the way that we're going to, vote this. And because it was a split decision vote. Well, then the DOJ, and this is supposedly is very rare, but the DOJ is there, at the House committee or whatever, in the hallway, and they're polling out, people in Congress, right, having conversations with them to get them to change their vote. So then they pull out the Speaker of the House. This is coming down the Speaker of the House. They pull him out into the hallway. And I don't know, 30 seconds later, however long that conversation was, boom, gets him to flip his mind. So then now through the new FISA Act, they no longer need a warrant to spy on us for anything and access any data inside of our lives. So just look at that power to influence your decision just that fast. Yeah, right. So look at the power the DOJ has. I mean, so with this, now I'm not saying it's going to take place, but what I'm saying is with the power the DOJ has, the probability, in my opinion, is high enough. Well, we should really be paying attention to this and prepping for best case scenario, meaning the NAR settlement proposal gets pushed through as is. Worst case scenario, the DOJ massively cracks down on this, has true commission decoupling, plus whatever else they want to changes that they want to make or deem are necessary to go out there and make. And look, this podcast isn't about why the DOJ is doing this. We could go down some rabbit holes with all of that. It just is what it is at this point. Right. So we got to make sure that we are prepped and prepared for this. So let me ask you this. Okay, for those of you that work with buyers, how many of the buyers that you are working with as high as real estate prices are right now, as high as interest rates are right now, as high as payments are right now, as high as just life is? We are in the most unaffordable time to ever live life as a U.S. citizen because you've got governments and our Federal Reserve, and I'm just using very reductive terms here, continue to monetize debt and print $1 bazillion, just keep printing money, can't control the printing press. They just keep abusing this. So it's making our purchase power dollar worthless. So thinking of this, it's not that real estate's so high, it's that your purchasing power is that much less. That's the reality of this. So $1 5 years ago is now only worth 50 cents, right? That's another way of looking at this and the reality of this. It's not that these assets are going so high. It's that your dollar is going so low. So we now entered the most unaffordable time to be alive. Every time you go out to eat, every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go do anything, it's fucking absurdly expensive just to operate life. So we look at how expensive life is, how expensive real estate is, how expensive mortgages are. Okay, what percentage of your buyers, now, if they're going to go out there and buy, and there's no way, shape, form, or fashion, even through concessions, that your buyer agent representation fee can be compensated for. So now that buyer has to come out of pocket, whatever that fee is. Whether that fee is, whether you're doing a flat fee or percentage, whether it's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever your, quote unquote average commissions are, whatever you decide to charge. Commissions always have been, always are negotiable. I mean, this is all bullshit crap that's going on right now, at least in my opinion, from somebody that's been in this industry for 20 years. I think that the reason that this is taking place is much, much deeper than, this is just using us as a scapegoat to facilitate the changes that they want to go out there and change to minimize home ownership. In this country. So we start breaking this down though. What is the percentage of your buyers that have that extra 5, 10, 15, 20K laying around to go out there and pay out of their pocket an additional buyer representation fee? So if the DOJ gets what they want, it is going to make a massive disruption when it comes to buyer agency. Now, if we look at other countries that are set up in this way, I was just having a conversation with one of my coaching clients that's a successful brokerage owner down in New Zealand. And dude, like with their agents and with them, there is no such, like, yes, buyer agency exists, technically can be done, but like none of them focus on acquiring buyer clients. All of their time is they just all go out there and focus on listings, and pretty much buyers just go direct to listing agent. There really is, in practice, very little to non-existent buyer agency that exists out there. Everybody just goes direct to listing agent. So we need to be prepared for this, and look at these impacts that these can have. So then from there, how do we prep for this just in case? Again, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So step number one is to prep for the NAR changes at B, right? So we all know what the NAR settlement changes are at this point. Require buyer broker agreement upfront before you can go out there and actually show a physical home. So we got to make sure that your buyer consultations are world class. You're treating the buyer consultations every bit as strict as you have the listing presentations. Hopefully, you've already been doing this. And I've been preaching on the spot. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years. We treat our buyer consultation just like our listing presentation. So, okay, buyer broker agreements are going to be required. So that's going to, some changes there where you got to get these up front before you can even show a physical property. Within that buyer broker agreement, your commissions, your buyer representation fee must be agreed upon, negotiated upon, signed on the dotted line, and disclosed inside that buyer broker agreement before you can go out there and show a physical home. So so okay, we can start prepping for this, making sure our world-class buyer consultations in place, making sure our negotiation skills are in place, making sure that we know how to articulate our value in the right way, for that in the event that the seller's not willing to offer concessions and so forth, right? What do we do in those scenarios? Do our buyers want us to go show homes that sellers are not willing to pay those concessions? Or do they only want us to go out there and maybe we get a disclosure signed up front? And you can talk to your broker about these different things, but okay, we can prep for these changes. So, we got buyer broker agreement being signed up front. Like we talked about, your buyer representation fee has to be disclosed, agreed upon, negotiated, and signed on the dotted line before you can physically go out there and show a property, right? We got the commission field, co-broke field being removed and eliminated from the MLS. And then how commissions are going to be dispersed are going to change. We talked about that at the beginning of this podcast. So no, nothing needs to be said there, with that. So, okay, we could start prepping very heavily for those changes. So start prepping right now. We know that even though NAR's been very upfront with this. Hey, we do not expect final court approval on this until November, but these changes are taking place this July. So we got to make sure that we are being prepared inside our own businesses for these changes that are coming in July. Court could approve it sooner, but we know that they're for a fact coming, for us in July, unless the DOJ cracks the whip sooner than that, but who knows how long slow of a process that is going to be. So we can start prepping for those changes now. Now, in addition to that, understand that in a lot of consumers' mind, this is already taking place. So you got to be prepped for how to have those effective conversations right now with people that, even though things might be still being done status quo right now, in the consumer's mind, listing appointments that you go on, right? Like they might ask, I thought I didn't have to pay that fee anymore. Yeah, right. Like you got to be able to know how to have those conversations, navigate through those, and do what you're going to do there. Okay, so second step number 2 here. Do not stop what you are currently doing that is currently working. My recommendation is keep things status quo of what is already working, what is already getting results. So an example with this, we've got internally within my team, we have a Zillow Flex account. One of my teammates has a Zillow Flex account. So I have teams within the team, and they do, over 20 closings every single month through Zillow, and these are buyer leads. Are we stopping that because of these? No. We're doing all of those things. We're continuing to plan on growing that. I'm not going to stop anything that's not working. I have one agent as an example that, has months where she does 8 deals in 1 month from her YouTube and social organic. Well, that's buyer real business. We're not stopping the things that are procuring buyer business right now, while simultaneously prepping for how we got to communicate with them, going forward, assuming that, because again, we got to prep for best case scenario and prep for worst case scenario. So I'm going to continue all the things status quo that are working. Right now, if it's not working, you got to find a strategy that is working. If you're working hard on something that's not getting you results, you got the wrong strategy in place. Well, your strategy either you have the wrong strategy, the wrong process, or the wrong skill set, one of those 3 things. But okay, continue scaling up and doing the things and just, attacking the things that are getting you results right now. Okay, then step number 3 here is I highly, highly encourage all of you to add at least one effective listing niche right now. And there's only 5 niches right now when it comes to listings that are getting the best results, because this is a market now where we got to target people that need to buy and sell, not people that want, but people that need. So it's going to be expireds, FSBOs, absentee owners, divorces, and pre-foreclosures. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into those on this podcast because I've done tons of podcasts, on these niches, even the best niches really in the last 2 years since we've seen the shifts in the market, that we've seen over the last 2 years. So I've done endless podcasts on this. You can go check those out where I do a deeper dive into these and into those separately. But I recommend to pick at least one of those and start attacking and targeting and adding one niche. So here's an example. My one agent I was telling you about that has those killer months off of, and does a lot of business through YouTube and social organic, which is buyer reload business. Over a year ago, I was like, hey, look, just to make sure that we're hedging for this, I want you to keep doing all of those things. But in addition to that, I want you to add this listing niche source, spending 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. So you are at least acquiring one listing per month. You've got this skill set dialed in. You've learned this. So if this other stuff is disrupted, because like I said a moment ago, And I ask you that question of how many of your buyers, if they have to come out of pocket, 100% out of pocket on their end for a buyer representation fee, how many of your buyers, well, I'm asking a room of that, like it's all over the place, usually, but usually it's around our shit, like none of them, right? Other countries that have it set up this way, again, does buyer agency exist? Yes, but does it exist in practice? Not really. So let's just say it's disrupted by 90% plus, which is my best guess, from my due diligence that I've done on this. And 90% of your buyer business goes away because they're forced in a position where they have to go direct to listing agent now because they can't afford their own separate representation. And what are you going to do in those situations? Okay, so then at least you have this skill set. You know the niche, you have this skill set that you can then scale up. So like I said, I wouldn't abandon what's already working, on the buy side and the other sources of business that you're doing, but I would hone in at least one listing niche, one, listing client acquisition strategy so you get damn good at that. Because the probability is high enough where buyer agency is going to get disrupted massively and we got to all become badass listing agents like we see in other countries that have it set up how the DOJ wants it. So this way you do not then become obsolete, right? So if you're just a buyer specialist, you need to become a buyer specialist plus a listing specialist. So you hone in that skill set. And for you team leaders and broker owners, right, getting your agents to do this too. It's our job as leaders of our organizations to get our agents deploying the right strategies and preparing accordingly. So then no matter how this goes, because we don't want to just survive these. Like we want to continue to be able to go out there and thrive during these times, right? Like there's no reason. Change is inevitable. Change is always going to be taking place, always has taken place, always will be taking place, right? So like don't fear these changes. And there's the only reason any of these changes hinder your business is because you chose to allow it to happen. No different than, if my business is down because of these high interest rates. No, you chose to allow your business to dip because of these high interest rates, right? Leaders take 100% full responsibility. Real estate's always trading hands, always has, always will. There's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. It's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom the market's good for, and then adjust and pivot our strategies based on whom the market is good for. That's what winners do. Winners take full responsibility. They understand that success is never external. It's always internal. You dictate your own success, but you got to prepare. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, history favors he or she that is most prepared. All right, so I'm going to end it with this. Look, if you are a real estate agent, team leader, or brokerage owner, and maybe it's you don't know exactly what is the best strategies for you to prepare through these changes, or just overall in your business, you don't know what the best overall plan is to get you from where you're at to where you want to be, whether your business is declining, whether your business is staying stagnant, maybe it's growing, just not growing at the pace that you want to, and whether you're an individual agent, team leader, broker owner, I got your back, regardless of what level that you're at. But if your business is not exactly where you want and need it to be, and you don't have extreme full clarity on exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go, if that is you, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me. Now, on this Zoom coaching call, we're going to break down where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and visions are, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. Then from there, I'm going to map out what my personal recommended strategy is for you based on that information to get you from where you're at to where it is that you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. And you have my word. I'm going to make sure that you do not leave this free Zoom coaching call with me with not knowing exactly what you must do and having full clarity on what you must execute on to get from where you're at to where you want to go. So you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. Now, full disclosure, we're going to spend 50 minutes getting all of that dialed in, which I promise you is plenty of enough time. In the last 10 minutes, I'm going to spend a couple minutes walking through what my coaching program is, what it entails. Look, if it's a fit for you, cool. And if not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. I have a very strict, absolute no pressure policy. I'm not going to ask you to whip out a credit card. I'm not going to make you feel guilty. I'm not going to pressure you. Look, hey, here's what I got. If it's something you want to roll with, cool. If not, that's okay too. Like I said, we can still be friends. You have my word that whether you ever move forward with my advanced coaching or not, this will be massively beneficial, massively powerful for you. You will not leave this Zoom coaching call with not knowing exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. You have my word on that. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. To make it easy on you, in case you're driving right now, this is a Zoom call. This is the GSD mode, GSD mode podcast, so gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Or if you just scroll below, show notes or description, top link there will be a link to click on to go book this. Now my schedule books out fast with these. So I'm usually a week or two booked out on these. So if you want to take advantage of this, go out there and schedule this right now. Like I said, you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. I will get you dialed in. All right, hope to see you on the Zoom call. Keep crushing, keep kicking ass. I will talk to you soon. Peace.